one of the things that we talked about was the grids, right? And do they have the capacity? And then we started talking about microgrids and all these fascinating things. But the story came out with me referencing one of my favorite movies of all time, which is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. When Clark
Right.
decides that Clark is going to just decorate his house with 500,000 tiny twinkling bulbs, right, and is going to make the ultimate Christmas display of all time, and forget about the trying to plug it in and all that stuff, but the scene where he finally right, and it sparks and then all the lights come on, and my favorite part of that is you have the bougie neighbors right next door who are blinded by the lights and tripping over and spilling their wine and everything, but real quick it flips to this energy center, right? It flips to this power plant, right? And you see the guy walk in and all the alarms are beeping and everything's going off and the guy flips the thing and then everything calms down, right? And Clark's lights are running. We started talking about that and I'm like, so what is that, Matt? Like, what is that, right? Like in terms of these power plants and the storage capacity and all that, and I equate, the idea of taking a current grid and all of a sudden, everybody on the block all going out and all buying electric vehicles on the same day,
Right.
everyone coming home and plugging them in that night. I mean, are we talking about a similar, obviously, let's forget about the theatrics of it and the funny part and everything,
Sure.
but are we talking about something similar there? I mean, can we just overload the
Great
grid?
question. Great question. So this goes to the heart of the video that we were discussing earlier. Hey, this is what Representative Stauber was asking Secretary Buttigieg. Like, hey, can the grid actually handle us doing the things that we want to do here if we're going to execute this policy that we need to from a decarbonization standpoint, from an electrification standpoint, in order to meet our goals, if that makes sense for everybody. So this is where I'm going to crack a very nerdy joke. Let's talk about ducks for a second. All right, everybody that gets that, I'm so sorry. All right, so what I'm talking about, there's something called a duck curve. If you draw a graph of, and this came out of California, but it's very generally widely applicable. If you draw a graph of, hey, what does the typical energy consumption, the energy demand, total energy demand on the grid look like over the course of a typical 24-hour day? Here's what you're going to see. You're going to see it's starting at like midnight, relatively low, and it's going to stay low. And then you're going to see this whoop, right about as the sun comes up, as folks start waking up, people turn on their coffee machines, people are making breakfast, people are turning on their televisions and their electronics for the first time every day.
Yep.
You're going to see the tail of this duck as energy use is going to spike up just a little bit, and then it's going to kind of hang there, and it's going to dip down, forming what looks like almost the belly of a duck throughout the course of the middle of the day, as generally speaking, enough of a critical mass of people, noting that this changed a little bit during COVID, but enough of a critical mass of people will then leave their homes, turning everything off, or leave their apartments, turn everything off, and they're going to go in to work or whatever it is they're doing over the course of the day. Typically, places where people gather are going to be more energy efficient per individual. So you're going to see a dip in the electrical demand over the course of the day. And then as everybody starts coming home in the evening, you're turning on your television, you're doing your dishes, you're turning on your washing machine, you're turning on your TV or TV's plural, like all of the different things that you're doing there. What we see is energy use spikes up. And this forms kind of like the neck of the duck, and that's what it looks like. Except here's the thing. Nowadays, it's not so much a duck. Now it looks like a pregnant giraffe because the dip in the middle of the day is huge compared to everything else. And the evening ramp just shoots up over the course of a day, especially when what you do is you change that graph just from demand to, hey, let's also overlay renewable generation over the course of a day. This is where it starts getting really interesting. That scene where there's the alarms going off in the power plant. So it's not that dramatic, it's not that theatrical, but there are folks that are grid operators that deal with something equivalent to a small emergency every day. Shout out to everybody at CAISO. Like shout out to everybody that runs all of the other grid operators, because they're trying to scramble as the sun goes down. So all of that renewable energy goes offline at the same time that demand on the grid is shooting up. So what we see are natural gas plants, it's like a drag strip where it's stationary and then everybody slams their foot on the accelerator, and those plants are scrambling not just for gigawatts of generation that they're ramping up over the very short period of time. It's dozens of gigawatts depending on the time of year. So Sean, that's happening every single day on our grid right now. And we're struggling from a grid perspective to update everything that we need to get there.